Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Divorce Unplugged podcast. And today we are going to talk about answering some of your biggest questions regarding custody. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicole Cox. You might recognize me as the family law liaison.
I am Keegan Burke. You might recognize me as Divorceology and all the socials. Disclaimer, not an attorney, not legal advice, not lawyering, not providing legal advice of any kind. This is a conversation about all the topics we like to get into on our podcast.
Right, exactly. And exactly the same as Keegan, I am not giving legal advice. I am an attorney, but I'm not your attorney. And I'm basically a coach right now. I coach people through divorce and custody. So let's get into it because this is so much fun. We love it when we get questions from our audience, our subscribers, because it's just great to see whether Keegan and I agree or not.
Yeah, exactly. Here, well, then let's start. I'll ask the first question. And I think these are pretty good ones because I think there's some questions that people want to know, but they don't always ask or they don't fully understand. So hopefully we can kind of shed some light on some of these topics. So generally speaking, we know that each state is different, but how does a judge decide who gets custody?
Yes. I mean, there's so many factors involved, right? The biggest one is to make sure that there's a safe parent. I mean, if you have a parent that's not safe, the safety and the well-being and the best interest of the child or children is the way that they will distinguish between who gets custody and doesn't.
Yeah. So best interest being the key one there. I think that's the general form and function that every state has now adopted. And that includes things like stability, caregiving patterns. So who's
Yes.
the primary caregiver while you guys are together? Emotional bonds are important, right? Those are all things you need to be aware of. But I think, and I like this one as a key element to it, and that is
I know
who
you
is
are.
most willing to facilitate the relationship with the other parent. I think this should be weighed very heavily.
And it is a factor in several different states. And when I coach, I make sure that I let my clients know this is a factor. So if you are the one that's most willing to facilitate the relationship between the child and the other party and their family, you're definitely going to get big points in court.
Completely agree.
hmm Okay, so let's look at number 2. What's the difference between legal custody and physical custody? I mean, I think we've been through that, right? The legal custody is basically your decision making, and it's based on decision making for medical care, healthcare, school, and religion.
Yep. And physical custody is unique in different states, right? But physical custody is who has the kid at that particular time. Some states consider physical custody as a measurement. Other states, it's almost an irrelevant topic, right? It's joint.
Right.
It's joint, whether it's 20/80 or 50/50 or 60/40. The physical custody element is almost a moot point. It's the person who has physical custody is the person who has the care of the child at that time.
Right.
So,
Just at that very moment. Exactly.
oh, this is one I like. Uh,
Yeah.
how is timeshare calculated for child support purposes? I'm going to put a disclaimer on this. It's flawed.
Right. Well, it is flawed because you run into so many issues with it when they do it with overnights.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you can go off of overnights. Some people try to go off of hours, and then there's a lot of misunderstanding that goes in with that. And then people can sometimes, I have clients that actually end up on accident violating the parenting time order because they don't understand.
Yeah. So, but to answer support related questions, I think that each state being different, right? There are different calculators, guidelines, some are fixed, some are algorithmic. But the two biggest inputs are timeshare and income. Those are the things that are going to drive your child support payment, either paying or receiving, most significantly.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if you have 51% technically of the overnights, then that person's eligible for more child support.
Yeah. Oh, and so that actually is a great point that you just pointed that out.
Mhm. Yeah, to sum
Here's
that part
this
up.
this a lot of people don't realize. Even if you're 50-50, like on the button from a court calculation standpoint, there is still probably going to be support paid in a lot of states. The higher
Mhm.
income earner is paying support to the lesser income earner,
Right.
even under a 50-50 scenario. So,
Oh, yes, that's true.
so
Yeah,
I mean, also why I hate
and we
that.
know you don't like that.
Exactly.
We already know your position on that, Keegan, I
Yeah,
know.
it's
Yeah,
broken. It's broken.
okay, okay. Well, here's an interesting one. Um, Somebody asked, "Can I get 50-50 custody if I work full time?"
Yeah, of course you can. Generally, courts aren't going to penalize the working party. There are lots of ways around it. Again, I think this goes back to yes, and I like the presumption, I know you don't, that yes, 50-50 is kind of going to be the expectation. But this plays back to one of the earlier questions of, you can be a working parent, but you still have to be an involved parent. So if you're a working parent and you're uninvolved, are you going to get 50-50? No, you're not going to have enough of an argument for it. And you're not going to be willing to do the things necessary to have it. So as long as you're a participating, at present, stable, good,
Participating.
model citizen working, yeah, you can absolutely get 50-50. Working
So
isn't gonna be held against you.
brings up just a really good quick question. I'm going to parlay on that. Is okay, so you're working full time and you have 50-50, but while you're working full time, a nanny is actually raising your child. Should that parent still have 50-50? No.
Well, so again, I mean, now we're talking, there are age considerations there, right? Because then the argument would be, well, if they're in school, should, where does the school play a role in the nanny, consideration? And does that actually impact the ability to parent on non-school hours or non-working hours? And I think 50-50 across the board makes sense. I think that working is, and courts don't generally penalize the working parent, but
They
something we
don't.
talked about earlier, and I like this, is there should be questions raised to the party who's not working. If they don't have the kids and they're not working, they're not looking for work, they're not trying to work, should they get the kids?
Right. Exactly. Should they? I
I
mean,
would argue no. I
I
mean,
have
go
a
get a job.
client. I have a client that says no. I
Mhm.
mean, you stayed underemployed and didn't work the whole time, but so why should you get to take the kids?
Right,
Interesting argument.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what's our next?
Uh, ooh, I like this one too. Does a child get to choose who they live with?
So the answer is typically not unless they meet that age threshold between 12 and 14 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you're exactly right. Now, this actually is a common argument. You see it all over social media.
Mhm.
You see gatekeeping or interference. And let's just kind of talk about this one a little bit, right? Correct. Sub 12, there's almost no chance they're going to have, to be able to choose. You start getting to 12, 13, 14, they have a much more significant weight in their preference. But
Mhm.
let's say you've got a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, and you've got a parenting order in place. Let's say mom or dad has the kid and they don't want to go back. You see it all the time. You hear it all the time. Kids want to stay where they're at.
I
That's pretty
know, I
normal.
don't wanna go back. That's a tough one.
You have to send them. I coach it all the
Yes,
time. You make sure that kid is made available and goes to the other party unless you've got black and white evidence of abuse, violence,
that's
risk
true.
harm, and then you're getting somebody else involved anyway. But you are sending that kid and you're facilitating and promoting that kid to go to the other parent, follow the order, no matter what. The whole game of, well, my kid doesn't want to go, or she doesn't want to go, or he doesn't want to go. It's noise. I think that's gatekeeping. I think that's interference. I think it's transparent all the way
Well,
around.
you have to have a lot of evidence, a good reason to withhold, a good reason, and that's like you said,
Enough reason to be able to get other people involved to stop it,
like a
right?
CPS, call
Yeah.
Child Protective Services, something has to happen. Yeah.
And by the way, I talk about this on my socials. Do not abuse the use of cops and
No,
CPS because you think that they're going to come to your aid or stop it, or
because
they
they're not.
no. It's gonna
They're
work against you. You're gonna look like the problem
crazy.
parent. Yep,
Yeah, I've
yep.
seen that before too.
So,
Even when it is happening, it's hard to prove that it is,
mhm.
and Child Protective Services gets all involved and then drops out and says, "Oh, no, it's undifferentiated."
Yep.
So, they're not to be trusted. Um, they're not to be trusted. What if my ex won't follow the court order? Oh, good one.
Yeah, I'd probably answer with a question. Are they ever going to follow the court order? In my
Right.
experience, there are a
Yeah.
couple things you have to do. One, document it.
Mhm.
Two, consider how frequently they are not following the order, because a one-time thing is probably not worth bringing up. It's got to be in my mind, where you get anywhere on this particular topic is if they're doing it consistently and there's a pattern of it. You can validate it with evidence. But here's where it gets interesting. We've talked about this before. You
Yes,
do
we
have remedies. You can file for enforcement or contempt,
Mhm.
but remember that you need to know where you are in your case. Remember that contempt charges are sort of a different beast than just your traditional family law proceeding. They carry
Mhm.
different repercussions, they carry different outcomes. And if you've got matters on the calendar for other things like timeshare or finances, those all get stayed, delayed until the matter of contempt is heard, because everybody's got a right to stay silent and not incriminate themselves in a contempt proceeding. So it's really a tactical, strategic question when the violations are occurring, how frequently, how bad, and maybe better than using it as a move to contempt, use it as an effort to illustrate how problematic the other parent is in all of your other matters, right?
Right.
It's a they're giving you ammunition to use essentially.
Yeah, well, and you could go into a contempt hearing, and then you're gonna have to maybe possibly pay for it, because if you don't
Mhm,
win, and then
mhm.
the only thing that really happens is they get, like, a slap on the wrist anyways. So, I mean, it's a difficult line, I think, to cross, and also, how bad is the violation?
Nailed it. Exactly right, and I love that you pointed out loser pays. So,
Right.
you wanna win or you don't wanna go in.
You want yes, because there you are with more attorney's fees.
Exactly. And by the way too, right, like, there is some consideration that folks look at contempt on really frivolous things as an abusive process, so
Oh, yeah,
it's pick your battles wisely.
definitely. Like that one. Okay, where are we next? How do courts view relocation or move away requests? This is interesting. I have had several clients now that are looking at relocation motions for relocation RFOs.
Yeah, same here. I would say that the general census is courts frown upon movaways, um, because movaways generally are difficult on the kids. They can be disruptive. There's a lot to consider, but things that play a role are: is there a current court, custody order in place? In what capacity does it provide parenting scheduling? What's the reason for the move? I think that's best
A
defined as
reason.
bad faith. If you're moving for the sole purpose of getting away from the other parent or taking the kids away from the other parent, you're not going to get very far. And more importantly, will most likely be held against you. Um,
Okay, and I agree with you, but in the same token, like, if you're moving because the other person is abusive or is not playing a huge role in your child or your children's life, then and you have an opportunity to make more money somewhere else, maybe you found a partner and you're engaged and that person lives somewhere else and the child or the children's life would look better and healthier, then I think that that's a good option to use is a motion for relocation.
Yeah, again, I think it's you're going to have to show good cause for the interests of the child being better than what it is with the parent or the parents where they currently sit. Which is my point exactly, right? It's you better
Mhm.
have good faith in mind on a move away.
Right.
Because generally courts will be able to see whether it's a good faith or a bad faith move.
Right. Right. I mean, in certain situations with my clients, it's like if the other person or the other party isn't paying child support, they're not a part of the life. Like, and the other people can move and have a better life, like we talked about, then I think that it's absolutely reasonable.
Yep. So, this one's a good one. I get this all the time. I actually talk about it all the time, and that is, can custody be modified after the divorce is final?
Yes, it can. Sometimes in a court order, you will have a statement that says you have to wait for a year. But if there is an absolute material change, based on your circumstances, then you can go in for a modification. Typically, we're talking about child support modification when there's a material change, um, but there can be other material changes, and that looks like job changes, obviously remarriage, like remarrying, having other children involved, things like that.
Moving, school change.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I always say, that there are lots of things that are defined as material changes, but your custody order, in my mind, remains fluid because so many factors play a role in the interests of the child that
Mhm.
they say they're permanent, but they're never really permanent. And now that does not mean that I'm supporting or advocating for just consistently pursuing modifying a custody
No, because that's a
arrangement,
pain.
right? But yes, they can be modified. You should have a good reason to do it, and it should be centered around the kid,
Right.
kids plural.
Best
So,
interest.
yep.
Interest. Yes. Oh, I love this one. Love, love, love.
Yep.
What's the role of a custody evaluator or 730 expert?
Oh, basically they conduct a deep dive evaluation of the familial state in a separated scenario. They make recommendations around parenting, around certain findings or investigations or allegations made in a case. But generally, they get a very definitive scope for their role to be involved in your case. In California, they have to be on an approved panel. That means they have to work through a certain set of requirements to be approved and a valid evaluator. That's a topic of conversation in another setting, by the way.
Can't
Um,
wait. I could talk about custody evaluations all day long.
they are very difficult to overcome. So going into a
Mhm.
730 evaluation, it's really important to understand how to handle it, what you want to present, how you want to navigate that. And even then, I think 730 evaluations are sort of like that moving target because there's a paying party consideration. There's, in my mind, I think there's some level of corruption, around professionals in the general census of the ecosystem that we live in family law.
Right.
But
I have a client that's fighting a custody evaluation, challenging it with another professional,
yeah,
like, as we speak.
yeah.
Mhm.
But what you have to remember is ultimately the court has this much time and they outsource to the custody evaluator to basically work through your case, make a recommendation that the judge can rubber stamp. And unless
Exactly.
you've got a really darn good reason, they're basically going to do that. Um,
Judge is going to use the recommendation as the way that they rule.
yep.
Really, it is.
Yep.
So you have to be very careful in your custody eval. I have seen some really big mistakes made in them, and you will end up losing parts of custody if you don't handle that right.
Yeah, yes, I've seen a lot of bias. I've seen many mistakes.
Mhm.
The other thing too that most people don't remember or think of is in a courtroom, there's evidentiary standards. So you have a certain level of evidence that can be admissible. In
Oh,
an evaluation environment, there's not the same standard of evidence as it's applied to the opinions, thoughts, judgments, findings, recommendations. And so you wouldn't believe the types of things that go into evaluations that would never make it into a courtroom unless it made it in through an evaluation.
or
Um,
flip side, you wouldn't believe the things that are supposed to be used and taken into consideration in a custody evaluation, but are just like put under the rug.
yeah,
Like,
yes,
doesn't matter
yes,
that father has a personality disorder and probably can't take care of the kids and all these things, and admitted that he was suicidal. That didn't even get into the custody evaluation.
yeah.
But that would have gotten into a courtroom.
Let me give you an example of, and the other thing too is the evaluators, if they have a certain bias, they have a significant amount of discretion to explain away, right?
They-
They'll footnote, they'll defend through the lens of I'm information gathering, right?
yes.
For instance, if you get into an evaluation and they do some type of psychological testing, MMPIs and
Always.
personality testing,
MMPI,
right?
always the MMPI.
There's a scenario where one person was found to be telling the truth in all of the answers. The other person was found to be giving nothing or mostly false answers. And the footnote was the person giving false answers only did so because they were trying to put their best foot forward. And it's like, wait a second, both parties are putting their best foot forward. Both parties are expected to be giving truthful answers.
And
The
one's lying.
lying party had an excuse and it was excluded or justified based on what the evaluator wanted to explain away. So
Yeah.
just they're a ugh,
I mean, it's like if you don't have to get involved in one, don't. And I
mhm.
think that we could do probably this is an idea for a whole episode on custody evals.
Yeah, and by the way, they're expensive
Very expensive, like $32,000 expensive.
all day, easy. Yep.
Mhm.
All right. What's the next one?
Oh,
Okay. Ooh, we kind of talked about this. Should I settle or go to trial for custody?
that is such a tough answer. It depends on so many things. If you feel like your children are not safe, if it's not in their best interest to be with the other party, then yeah, I think you should go to trial. I do all day long.
Yep.
If not, I think that you should try to settle.
Yep, I agree. Settle if possible, but not at the expense of safety, stability, fairness, reasonable outcomes. Right? Like, settlement means you're giving up some things too. Right? It's not just settling to get your way. Settling means you're finding middle ground. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, here's a good one. We like this one. Does it hurt my custody case if I start dating or introduce a new partner?
Sometimes I am an advocate of letting the bird fly. Um, but I do know, and we do see all the time, people start dating the wrong people, right?
Right.
Abusers,
Exactly.
criminals, those types of folks. So if you're going to start dating somebody, there are a couple things that I tend to try to recommend. And one is pick well, right? That
Yeah. Try.
easier said than done, I think, for a lot of us.
Hmm.
But two, it don't rush to introduce your kids
Thank
to the
you.
new
I was gonna
partner.
say, what about vetting them out for like a year or so? Like 6 months to a year, and then realize you can introduce them.
Yeah, you don't need your kids experiencing a revolving door.
Mhm.
Now, again, I don't think that an ex should have a say in whose door is coming and opening and closing, but you should have your own self control to know that I'm not going to introduce my kids to 5 different partners in the next 10 months. That's
No,
no good for anybody. So,
right.
and by the way, it is a measurement of stability in a household. And if that person isn't good, it will be used against you. So pick
Right.
well.
Well, they can
And
even be thrown into the custody evaluation and any other
for
evaluation
sure,
too. I've
for sure.
seen an ex uh, a new wife be put under a psychological evaluation just because of her new husband's ex-wife.
Yeah. No, totally. Totally.
Okay, what if the other parent is emotionally abusive? I think we've covered that, but not physically. It's you've got to get documentation on that. And again, I'm big on this therapy. Use a therapist in this position to be able to be the sounding board, write the notes, and go to court with those notes. That that person is actually being emotionally abusive.
Yeah, and I think I wanna say, like, a cautionary thing around therapy.
I
Um,
know you do.
eh, but maybe not even on the thread that you might think I'm gonna say it. It's don't send your kid to therapy telling them what to say,
Oh yeah,
right?
don't come to them.
Like, it's if your kid needs therapy because they're experiencing something and you know it, you're sending them to therapy for their own needs. Like, it's their safety zone, it's their opportunity to speak what they're thinking and feeling.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're doing them a disservice because the whole purpose of the therapeutic experience is to gain tools and navigate the challenges that they're experiencing on their level, not your level. They're not your tool, they're not your leverage. Now, again, the advantage of therapy is the truth comes out and the kid says something that needs to be heard or needs to be applied in a court of law. Well, then that's a different story. So long as you're not directing them to say something, I see that often where
No
parents
shame.
are, trying to influence what they say. Stay. We talk about it all the time. Stay out of it. It's not your place. Let
Right.
just give them the opportunity to solve their problems. Give them the tools, the resources necessary to survive.
Right. Make them more autonomous through that process.
Um, all
Well,
right, so this is a good one.
mhm.
Is parental alienation real, and will the courts do anything about it?
I mean, this is one of the toughest subject matters I think that we talk about quite often is it can go both ways. It's a scary word to use, whether it's parental interference or parental alienation, because for me, the extreme cases are that your children can get thrown into reunification camps. And those places are scary because they aren't federally or state monitored. There are children that have died in there. So I'm very much against the reunification therapies. Um, so when you say parental alienation, then that's immediately what happens. Is it real? I think there's different levels of it, and we've talked about it over and over on our podcast. Um, how how serious is it? Is I think the question. Like, there's always going to be a little bit of, well, your dad did this, but that's not really, in my mind, considered parental alienation. But there can be severe cases, and in those cases, there has to be some sort of therapeutic involvement, but hopefully not a reunification camp.
Yeah, I would say alienation is real, and I would say, like you just said, it comes in different forms and
Mhm.
with different intent. I think that it happens all the time unintentionally.
Right.
Um, and I think that it is absolutely a difficult thing to get a court to recognize to the extent that it will have an impact on the custody orders that the court's going to issue.
Mm.
And so you have to be able to clearly illustrate it with evidence, document third parties. it needs to be black and white that there is alienation. And in California and a lot of states, they don't actually
Even if you
designate
look at it.
alienation as a thing, but
Mhm.
custodial interference, gatekeeping, things that are interfering with the other parent, which goes to what we've already said 100 times. You should be doing everything you can to involve and facilitate the relationship with the other parent, not obstruct it.
Exactly, and then if somebody's saying that, if, like, one of my clients is being accused of parentally alienating, then I tell my client to over co-parent, to really involve that parent, really show that you're overly co-parenting and you're trying.
Yeah, it's just it is a very difficult question, and I you do see it, and you do see it a lot not be resolved, right? Like it's not something the court generally gives a lot of weight to, if you can't if it's not black and white. So
Right. I'm gonna let you take this one because it's an interesting question. So I'm gonna ask this one to you because I don't think we're gonna agree on this at all. But why do so many fathers lose custody even when they're good dads?
yeah, I
See, now
know.
I don't see any of that anymore. Not to interrupt you, because I don't even agree with that. I think that most of my clients that come to me have situations where the dads are actually getting 100%, and they're doing it in strategic ways that are not necessarily in good faith.
Well, that sort of answers the question, for you on that front is, well, maybe those guys aren't good and maybe they're not good fathers who are losing their kids. But I know and I see
No,
all the
I'm
time.
saying dads are getting it and they're
Yeah,
taking it
right.
from
They're not
mom.
losing their kids. They have their kids and they're not good guys, right? So this question is how are fathers who are good dads losing custody? And I think it happens all the time. I see it all the time. I've sat in courtroom after courtroom after courtroom where there's absolutely no reason not to have 50-50 and or even primary custody based on what's happening in the case. But here's where I frame it. It's I say it all the time. The
Mhm.
law says equality. Application of the law does not result in equality. But as a man, I believe that we generally make lots of mistakes. So for our coaching customers or clients, right? If it's a man, you have to be taking a different approach to the way you generally operate in your life. I think that we lose because we don't prepare properly. We're not emotionally savvy enough. We always try to ignore the issue and we wait to handle the situation. I
Right.
think that we think we know more than we know. And so we don't ask for help. We don't get
There
help.
you go. That's true. You think you know more than you know.
And so we have no idea how to work within the system. I think men are generally not equipped to be as cunning. And that's in business life, it's in professional life. I think it's a skill set that women generally have a stronger skill set than men to be more tactical. Men just are too broad in the way we think. And here's the other thing, oftentimes, right, the mom is taking a slightly more prioritized role in the kid's life while you're together. And
Primary
so
caregiver.
status quo is an element that courts do consider.
Yep.
Um, and so it's not always a bias. It's, I think, bad planning. And let me go back to the last point I just made around status quo. If you're thinking about divorce and you have kids, call it any age, be considerate of their age, right? So are you going to push for 50-50 overnights of a newborn and get it?
So that's not
Even
fair.
if you eliminated tender years doctrine, that's not a
No.
reasonable thing. Moms breastfeed, the kids need moms. Be a
Yeah.
reasonable human being, right? But
Right.
when it comes to caregiving, you better be caregiving. Like you can't just say, "Well, we're together and I have no idea about the kid's schedule. I haven't been to a game. I haven't been to a practice. I haven't been to an event. I haven't been to a
Right.
parent teacher conference. I haven't been to a." If you have no concept of that, okay, if you separate, there will be a road to that. And I think that's where it should lead, assuming you are a good human and you have, you need to do that. It
Right.
doesn't in my mind, it's not just because we are together and the mother's the primary caregiver, it's a permanence. It's a working path to 50-50 is the goal, assuming all things are not abusive, not violent, all that stuff. But
Mhm.
be aware of the things that play a role in custody
The
going
fact
into it.
look in that's a really good point. Every state has factors that they take into consideration when you go into court, and
Yeah.
they're all different, but look at the factors and make sure you're, crossing out that stuff. I think one thing that, you kinda left out, which when we were talking about why men I think sometimes men just get so overconfident that they've got everything handled and they're going to win.
I've never met a man like that going into a divorce situation, a custody battle,
Okay, so
especially in California.
okay.
Um, I actually can't think of one person I've said went in going, "I know I'm gonna win," or, "I know I'm gonna have it." If anything, they're praying to God that, you know, with good reason, that they can land at 50-50.
Yeah, and so those aren't your clients, those are my clients'
Mhm.
partners that are
Mhm.
overconfident,
Yeah.
and obviously there's a reason why those women are my clients,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
those men are overly confident and have other issues.
Sure. Sure, sure. So, ultimately, it goes right to what we've now started to really lean on is everybody should have a coach, but men especially. And it's okay as a man to not be a know-it-all in family law. It's okay to recognize that, listen, even if you don't get 50-50, you can still be a good dad, still be a good
Right,
human.
and
You can
still be a
still
part of their lives.
be a
It
part
doesn't
of their
matter
life.
if you didn't
Yeah.
get 50/50.
Yep.
Yeah, don't just walk away because you didn't get what you wanted.
Right. Right. And and here's the thing. This is an interesting little, I don't know, connection in my mind as we were talking about this, right? It's I don't know how you're gonna feel about this. Um, so let's think about this just through this lens. Let's take 1 second. If you've got a situation where you're together, you've built a life, it's 5, 10 years, you've got a couple kids. The mom's been the primary caregiver of the children,
Mhm,
and you separate. Dad's been the primary breadwinner, has been around, has been a good dad. He's respectful. He's a good, model citizen.
mhm,
And he's been able to be a permanent fixture in the kid's life, but hasn't been responsible for all of the upbringing elements, right? The feeding, the bathing, the schooling, all of that stuff. But he could, he just hasn't. That's the way the familial life has gone.
mhm,
And the flip side of that is the mom hasn't earned a dime, right? Doesn't have
mhm,
any professional credentials and is working through the lens of, I've been raising our children. If the argument that you have made is, well, then mom is eligible and should be supported financially, right?
right,
Then
mhm,
the dad should be eligible and supported parentally, right? So both are working. So the mom would be working towards getting job, getting finances, getting stability, and the dad would be facilitating that. The mom would be facilitating, promoting, and ensuring that the dad is getting access and participating instead of obstructing, saying, "Well, I'm the only one that's ever done it." It's you've got to go both ways. Parental and financial could potentially, from a hypothetical standpoint, be both parties are responsible for the separation and the success of their children. In my mind, and in your mind, right? Some level of financial support and certainly some level of participation by both parties,
yeah, I mean, I think that if both parties wanna give a little, then that makes sense, if that's what you're
right?
saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Sorry, that was a super tangent, but
"No, no, no, yeah, no, it's okay." I was like, well, to sum it up, I mean, yeah, if both parties wanna give a little, then yes, absolutely. I think, uh, where my issue is when one parent doesn't wanna be involved, right? And
sure.
then the mom is the primary caregiver. Um, yeah, that's an interesting conversation. We'll have to pick that up again. We'll think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so final thoughts. Uh Q&A. I love it.
It's so fun.
My
I do
favorite
too.
episodes.
We
For
get a
sure.
lot out of it too, and I hope it helps everyone because, I mean, it's really like a big overview of a lot of the questions that I'm sure people ask themselves all the time.
Yep. Yep. And I think that send us more, right? We're going to do this somewhat frequently. And we want these questions. We get them anyway. We'll put them on, we'll bring it up. I think it's where we get to apply all the topics that we talk about and we deal with in
Mhm.
real life, right? So these are things that people get to take away and apply to whatever they're doing on their own. So hopefully it's helpful. Like, listen, subscribe, do all the things. We appreciate
And get
everybody.
a coach. Get
Yes,
a
get a
coach.
coach.
That's our
Exactly.
takeaway today. Get a
Get a
coach,
coach.
everyone.
That's right.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Until next time.
See you soon.